Hey, ¿qué es la que hay, mi gente? It's Rocky here from SpeakSpanishFaster.com. Y hoy yo quiero hablar de, today, I want to talk about an important topic, and that's should you and a friend that's also learning Spanish, only talk Spanish together. So last night I was talking with my nephew Julian, Julian's in high school. Shout out my boy Julian. And he was asking me for some advice for learning Spanish. Specifically, he asked me if he and his friend should only speak Spanish together if they want to learn Spanish faster. Now, this isn't the first time I've received this question from someone, so I figured that I would, take a second to answer it on this channel. Now, I started by asking him two very important questions. The first one was, is your friend a native Spanish speaker? And second, if he's not a native speaker, how good is his Spanish? He went on to say that his friend was not a native Spanish speaker, but his Spanish was good, and that he also grew up in a Spanish-speaking household. Now, here's the thing to know, all right? Learning a foreign language like Spanish is more than just knowing the words, all right? There are a lot of characteristics that come with communication. Things like gestures, intonations, different sayings, pronunciations. All those things go together when we communicate with each other, all right? So, do you see how this could be a problem if you're practicing Spanish with, say, a native English speaker that doesn't know Spanish that well? Well, number one, both of you are probably going to make mistakes, and neither person will know how to correct those mistakes or even know how they're making, or even know that they're making mistakes, period, all right? Now, this can lead to bad habits. Now, number two, you're not going to be able to pick up on the nuances of Spanish that make a Spanish speaker a Spanish speaker, all right? You're not going to pick up on the intonations, the different words, the pronunciations, the gestures, all the things I talked about. So when it comes to that situation, I recommend that if you have a friend that is also learning Spanish with you, the first thing that you guys can do together is communicate through text. Okay, because that's going to allow you to practice your reading and your writing without having to worry about all the nuances and listening and speaking. This is also convenient because most people learning Spanish as a second language, they're already pretty good at reading and writing because, well, that's where the main focus is when we're studying Spanish in school. But now let me explain some things that you can do with your friend to really make learning effective, all right? For example, for my nephew, I sent him a few different videos to watch in Spanish, and I told him to write down the words and phrases that he didn't know, all the stuff I usually recommend on this channel. I told him to do that, and then I told him to send me the list that he writes down. From there, I read the phrases, and I had him read the phrases back to me. So that way I could correct any mistakes that he made with pronunciation. Now, a friend that is learning Spanish and is a beginner won't be able to correct your mistakes, which will lead to more mistakes. Or worse, if you both make the same mistakes, it will lead you to believing that the incorrect way is the correct way, if that makes sense. So here's what you should do, all right? If you have a friend, you can watch and study Spanish videos from advanced or native Spanish speakers. You can study those videos together. So that video I sent my nephew, he could send that to his friend, and they could both do the same exercise of watch the video, write the words that they don't know, share those words with each other, quiz each other, and even discuss the video together. And this shouldn't discourage anyone or lower their self-esteem because, look, there should be no rush to speak. In fact, that's the biggest mistake I think Spanish learners make, is that they rush to speak before they've consumed enough comprehensible input. And that could be okay, maybe, if you are in a foreign country only speaking Spanish with natives. But that's a big maybe, okay? But what you don't want to do is you don't want to speak with others whose first language is your language. You don't want to speak to them only in Spanish if they're getting started like you are. You need more time to download the input so that you can export output, okay? So take your time to speak Spanish because speaking fluently is really all about confidence, and our minds are fragile. All right, if you spend all day speaking an incorrect version of Spanish with a friend, thinking you're making progress, but then you put yourself in a situation with a native speaker and you struggle with them, then that's going to lower your confidence, right? and you will always be hesitant. So that's going to build up this negative habit subconsciously that whenever you're with a native, your brain is just immediately shuts down. This is what happens to most people, and it's why they freeze up every time they try to speak with the natives. All right, the way to get through this is through patience and consumption. So spend time consuming Spanish with your friend, hold each other accountable, analyze the videos, not just the words, but the pronunciation, the intonation, the gestures. Again, everything I've been discussing in this video. So if you watch one of my videos in Spanish, you could say, what did Rocky say? Why does he say, why does he use the L? Why does he say hablar instead of hablar? What accent is that? Oh, that's the Puerto Rican accent. Yeah, so stuff like that is going to help you go a long way. And that's why if I was a teacher in school, in a perfect world, rather than forcing my students to study grammar, memorize conjugation rules and words, I would just have them consuming Spanish input. So what happens is when they study grammar and just memorize, they never learn how to speak. They never learn proper sentence structure, and they never learn to comprehend real world Spanish. And I use the word learn here, but I should use the word acquire because those things are acquired through massive amounts of Spanish input. Now, the majority of the class, I believe, should be spent on listening and reading together. And then depending on the level of the class, whether it's Spanish 1, Spanish 2, Spanish 3, that would determine the level of Spanish that they consume and how often I intervene as a teacher to review. But I get it. Look, I have friends, they're Spanish teachers in middle school, high school, and I know that they don't have the freedom to teach how they want because they have to follow the different standardized requirements and tests and all that crap. And that's part of the problem with traditional learning in general, but that's an argument for another day. The point of this video isn't for you to just give up on your class and say, screw school. All right, look, if you're in class, you don't have to give up what you're doing. You don't have to give up your current ways of learning. I simply want to help you reach your full potential as a Spanish speaker. So if you're trying to pass Spanish as an elective, or you just want to be able to say a few sentences for your next trip to a Spanish country, then you can ignore the majority of this message. But if you're really serious about speaking Spanish and becoming fluent in Spanish, then you need to do what I've described in this video. Now, it might take some extra work, but it will be worth it. Definitely, it's definitely going to be worth it. Now, if you're someone that's determined to find a Spanish partner and you're like, yo, screw you, Rocky, I'm ready to start talking Spanish right now. Well, I recommend that you find someone on like italki, a friend, somebody that's a native Spanish speaker or someone that speaks Spanish at a very high level, all right, that can help you. Don't find another English speaker that's just getting started learning Spanish until you can be sure that that person can speak at an advanced level, and that they can speak with a native speaker and that they sound native-like, almost as native-like as possible, I guess you could say. But until then, know that if the person is just getting started, only speaking Spanish with them could do more harm than good. And of course, that's what we want to prevent here. All right, so muchas gracias por escucharme, muchas gracias por ver mi video. If you found this video helpful and you're really looking to take your Spanish to the next level, to level up a little bit, I have 3 of my biggest tips that will help you take your Spanish to the next level. These 3 tips, I call them the 3 secrets. They're like the 3 main things I would do if I removed all my Spanish knowledge and had to learn Spanish again from scratch. These are the 3 things I would do. So click the link in the comments. I'll pin it there for you. That'll take you directly to the little guide where I'll reveal my 3 biggest secrets to learn Spanish faster. If you like the video, do me a big favor, hit the thumbs up. That'll tell YouTube that you like the video, and YouTube will hopefully share it with more people. If you have any questions, you need help with anything, I got you. All you got to do is comment down below. Last but not least, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so that you never miss another video. Hasta la próxima vez. Hablamos.